Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. They say a picture can say a lot more than words can. The picture in there on the left of your pictures there, on the right hand, I liked it. It shows somebody in the rural areas. They are mud hut going to school, and supposedly in the mirror, which is meant to be the future, is somebody more smartly dressed going to school, same age. I think in the case of Zimbabwe, the little boy may just as well be looking at the past. That could well be his great-grandfather in the 1980s, when Zimbabwe's economy was doing a lot better than it is now. Zimbabwe's infrastructure is completely collapsed. Schools in the rural areas are in a deplorable state. Many children are going to school in the rural areas, but are coming up with nothing. It is not unusual to hear of 0% pass rates in some of these rural schools. That's what we are looking at. This is the future we are looking at. So instead of things getting better, they're getting a lot worse. Benjamin, we have been talking about the ZiG. How do you see the future here?
Good evening to you and to our viewers. Good day to you all. You know, it reminds me when we were a little younger and, you know, our parents used to tell us, you know, you should learn very hard. You must focus on your books so that tomorrow, you know, you can get good jobs and so forth. Now, when you look at the situation in Zimbabwe, how many graduates you have that, you know, don't even have jobs? How many, you know, of the youth have now turned to drugs for company because, you know, they're idle? You know, it's a very, very sad state of affairs in Zimbabwe, especially when you are in your youth, you are in your prime. This is when you're supposed to be the most productive, you know, producing for your own self, producing for your future family, producing for your family if you have a family, and producing, you know, for the country, you know, contributing to the GDP of a country, but not in Zimbabwe. You know, and I agree with you to say, you know, when you look into the mirror, probably you see the past, what could have been, maybe. You know, it's really sad. There's no aspiration anymore. There's nothing forward, you know, nothing to look forward to. It's all roads are just dead ends when you look at the big picture. And then here comes the ZiG, meant to be the most powerful currency in Southern Africa. Ah, well, we've lived that day before. I mean, we you get tired of it. There's no, like I said, there's nothing to look forward to. You know the end story, how it will end with this whole ZiG. They said the same thing with RTGS. Ours is the strongest in Southern Africa. Here they are coming with the ZiG to remove the zeros. It will just pile on the zeros faster than the RTGS. So I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. You know, what I'm seeing is probably those mud huts are being pushed because, you know, there are minerals that the Chinese want to dig underneath there. So there's nothing to look forward to in Zimbabwe at the present moment. It's a sad. It gives me great sadness to say such, But that's the picture. Let's be realistic. That is what Zimbabwe is.
Yeah, it is a pity that the country we have allowed ourselves to get into this mess and this deep. I applaud Zimbabweans in general for the way they have continued to value education. So you find that even in the rural areas, parents still make a concerted effort to send their children to school. But alas, when you do not have the opportunity to have quality teachers, the facilities for you to learn, it really is becoming a meaningless game. The schools are so poorly equipped that it is hard to see how somebody can really honestly learn under those conditions. And in this day and age, you're looking at a situation here where kids in the developed world at that age are playing with laptops and computers and they're watching television and they're really being seriously mentally challenged at every opportunity. And this young man here, he's going to school where probably they'll be sitting on the floor and the teacher is so poorly paid that some of them, if they come from far away, they cannot afford to come to school every day and so forth, and to the point where they will spend 7 years of primary school, grade 1 to grade 7, and at the end of it, most of them can hardly write their own name. What kind of future do they have? And in this particular case, like you correctly say, even if you struggle on and go to university, you come out of university, there's no work. Zimbabwe is in a desperate situation. And I honestly think that the people of Zimbabwe themselves are not taking this with the agency the matter demands. We cannot carry on the way we are now. The more we lag behind, the harder it's going to be to catch up. And I think that is my main message to the people of Zimbabwe today.
I agree, and I like the way you said, the more we continue to lag behind, the harder it is to catch up. I mean, it's already happening where you are finding the youth. Just imagine if things were to go back to normal, how would you get somebody that is used to just his morning and his evening, or his coming and his going, is just wheeling and dealing, trying to rob others and others robbing. The lifestyle is just not normal. Where it's deal after shady deal, and in Shona we now call it kungwava. That is not the way that we should be going. Once it starts, it becomes a habit, and we all know a habit is very, very difficult to stop. So Zimbabwe is getting to that sorry state where whatever we are living in now has become a habit. We have adjusted to the situation. instead of changing the situation around or turning the situation around, we have turned ourselves towards to the situation so that we adapt. And by adapting in the, we are creating a habit which tomorrow will be very, very difficult for us to change, because we are so used to this corrupt and backdoor black market kind of deals. In the eventuality things get back to normal, there's a 9 to 5 job. There are rules that need to be followed. The police are now doing the right thing. Some people are going to find themselves caught up in this, and it'll be said again. So it's time for us. I've always said this. It's time for us to be serious. Let's let we need to change the way we think before we can change others, and fix ourselves. And then once we fix ourselves, we can all come together and find a solution to this here whole problem. And the solution, I think we have said it a lot of times within our conversations, and I think we know this is the solution, but it's not popular amongst other people, right? The only way we can sort ourselves out of this mess is we need to implement the democratic reforms such that not just for now, we are not going to benefit just now, we are also going to benefit in the future. Our children are also going to benefit from this. This is the first step. This of saying let's go and try rig elections, let's go and try and all, it is just meandering and just going around in circles. It's not going to help us in any way whatsoever. And here we are, for going 43 years, 44 years, in sometime this week, we are still in the same mess, and we're not going up, we're actually going down, we are sinking fast. So as we go even into this independence, let's look at the country. What independence are we talking about? What has been developed as you walk in town? What new building do you see that that shows that we built this post independence, or this road that we did post? This is the benefit for us to celebrate, to say, but we did this because of our independence. I don't see it, unfortunately. I think we just wound down everything that was there, and here we are. It's a sad thing that when you look into the mirror, you see the past and you don't see the present and the future.
Yeah, I zoomed in to show that if you look closely at the building, the hut the young man is standing next to, this is supposed to be the 21st century. And yet here we are. Some people are living still in mud, brick huts. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. We really haven't made any progress at all. 21st century and we're still living in mud huts. It speaks volumes of what kind of people we are. And at the present moment, the situation, the economic situation in Zimbabwe, like I said, has been going downwards. In fact, ever since the country's independence in 1980, things have got progressively worse and worse and worse. And yet, the leaders would want us to believe that things are getting better. We need to open our eyes. Things are not getting better at all. Things are getting worse. And as long as we've got a political system that says an individual who gets into power is not accountable to the people, democratically accountable to the people, we are not going to change the system. There are those who are in the opposition and who still believe that the opposition is the answer, i.e. Triple C and MDC. MDC have failed. And I think it's the failure to accept that MDC and Triple C have failed these last 23 years that have only worked in ZANU-PF's favor. Because by failing to implement any meaningful reform, by participating in flawed elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy, what the MDC and Triple C have done is actually perpetuate the ZANU-PF dictatorship. And if they're going to participate in 2028 without even one token reform implemented, we'll only be giving ZANU-PF another 5 years. Another 5 years of this. That is the reality. That little boy represents about 60% of Zimbabwe's population who live in rural areas. Their living conditions is a nightmare. They have no running water. They have no clean buildings. As you can see, a mud hut. And this year, because of the drought, many of them are going to face serious food shortage. That is the reality in Zimbabwe today. It need not be this. Zimbabwe had the opportunity to become one of the prosperous countries in Africa, and yet we are one of the poorest. And at the present moment, we really are in a hopeless situation. I would like to conclude my message tonight and saying this picture encapsulates what I wanted really to say. That sometimes we want to believe we are looking into the future, when in reality we are looking into the past. The 1980 generation had more prospects, more hope for a better future than those who live in today's Zimbabwe. That is the reality. That is what it means to say that we are living in a failed state, a pariah state, and that is going to remain a pariah state as long as ZANU-PF remains in power, because the regime believes they've got the absolute right to govern as they see fit. That is the recipe for bad governance. And we have paid the price for bad governance these last 44 years. Come the 18th of April, we'll be celebrating 44 years after independence. And we still have 60% of our people living in abject poverty, walking to school barefoot. That is tragic. Thank you very much. And Benjamin, would you like to give your closing remarks?
Thank you. In closing, I would say, I think it all comes down to us making a decision to stop this idea of just following and just be followers and accepting abnormal things to be normal. It all comes down to us to be able to reason, to be able to question, especially those that we have voted or we have put into leadership or into positions that have something to do with our future. we shouldn't just blindly follow. And unless we do that, the Zimbabwe that we wish for, the democratic Zimbabwe that we wish for, where our rights mean something, will all be just a pipe dream. So I urge everybody, including myself, to start thinking for ourselves and to start, questioning some of these things that are going on in and around Zimbabwe, not necessarily just from the ruling party, but even as in the opposition as well, to find out why they are taking us both ways as fools. Yes. So it all comes down to us at the end of the day. That's what I can say in closing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, and thank you very much for the listeners. I would like to say good night to you all and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.